Let's talk about creatures in horror. Um, in this particular case, I want to talk about their scary appeal through visibility. Specifically, creatures in horror are known for having, what do you call it, levels of exposure, which sounds weird and almost disturbing, but that's kind of the point. More or less, is a creature or horror figure scarier because you see more of them or because you see less of them? In this particular case, I've broken down to three categories, this being exposed, underexposed, and middle. So obviously, it's a swing and vote kind of thing. This is more or less my opinion, breaking down some kind of, I guess, data, if you will. It's just more or less observation from watching a lot of horror movies. But I'm going to try and limit my amount of uses of horror figures. I don't really think I could put in rules per se, because it's the rule pretty much is just, is the creature scary or not scary if it's exposed or if it's not exposed? Because there are different kind of creatures, say like Godzilla, for example, who is scary to a level, but it's a monster, so it's naturally going to be scary. Not probably scary as the xenomorph from Alien, but there's the contextual element towards Godzilla, that being the atomic bomb, that being the disaster in Japan and Hiroshima, and all that kind of cultural, collective context that comes behind the horror of it, and that's pretty much why a lot of people would describe Godzilla as a horror creature from a horror franchise. No matter whether the films themselves actually are comedic or horror or however it be. Though I guess realistically the strictest sense of the horror from that franchise would be the first one, with it being also a drama. But then I want to talk about more or less the kind of context, and more like context behind the film, and more or less the context that's in the film, that's provided by the film, as to why a creature or a character would be scary. So we'll start with the exposed. My character for this is the famous Freddy Krueger. Freddy Krueger appears in the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise, created by Wes Craven, and portrayed by Robert Englund. Yeah, I know my stuff. So my reasons for why he's exposed horror. So in this case, exposed horror would be when he's present, visually on screen, he's scary. But when he's not present, he's not really scary. Like, there are instances in the films, in the franchise as a whole, where Krueger himself is scary because he's not actually there. And that's more or less when it comes to the fear of the characters rather than the fear of him. For example, in the first one, where one of the characters falls asleep in class, the fear is there because she's fallen asleep in the middle of class in the middle of the day. And of course, Nancy goes through that whole kind of thing throughout the end of the film, where she herself doesn't want to fall asleep, because if she does, she has to go against Freddy. And so the fear there is the circumstances rather than the character. So I would pose that Krueger would be in the exposed category because he's more or less only scary when you see him, when he's present on screen, when you can hear his voice, when you can see him or hear his claws, that kind of an element. Not when he's not there whatsoever, and even if they're talking about him, if there is no sign of him at all present, it's not really particularly scary, but it can build on an atmosphere because you are concerned for the characters. If they go to sleep, they may die or will die, depending on which film you're watching, of course. So I'm mostly basing that off the first film, but the idea is still there. He's mostly only scary when he's actually present. Additionally, I would pose that the creature from the Black Lagoon, I actually can't remember what it's called. He or it is scarier because when it's there in person, which is kind of the appeal. Like those older Universal monster movies, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein, Dracula, the scary nature of it comes from when the creature is on screen, and that's more or less the point. The rest of it's usually a drama or a melodrama relating to the characters in the background or in the foreground. So when the creature from the Black Lagoon is there, maybe it's swimming underneath the water, very much like the shark from Jaws, it's scary. And when it's taken the woman, it's scary. Of course, it's still a dated scary because it's still the 50s, whatever. So someone like myself might not find it scary because doesn't exactly have that appeal anymore, but the insight, the idea is there. It's meant to be scary because it's there, it's present. Oh no, ugly monster creature, I'm meant to be scared. Simple as that. In the middle, we have Michael Myers. No relation. He's a character who is kind of like an omniscient force. He's scary when he's present, he's scary when he's not present. The luck for Michael Myers is just the simple factor of he roams in an urban environment. He comes from a mental institution. His first thing that he does is, outside of breakout, is kill some people and take the clothing and take a mask. And he then continues to stalk our main characters. And that's kind of his appeal. Again, I'm mostly looking at the first Halloween film. But again, even Halloween 2018, because it's very much a replica of the first film, does the same kind of thing. He's scary when he's present, he's scary when he's not present. Because the atmosphere is so built on him being around that he could, like, within the subtext of the film, could be anywhere. The scary nature comes from the fact that he is somewhere. And he could be anywhere. Like, he could be in the house when Loomis is looking for out trying to find them, or he could be stalking the babysitters. Like, we know he's stalking the babysitters, but it's still scary when Loomis is in the house, because he's in the house where Michael Myers was a kid, where he killed his sister, where he could potentially be. So that's why he's more or less contextually and subtextually scary, because he's there and when he's not there. They also add this with the extra sound effects and the music that beautifully, like, partners with the film to amplify the horror atmosphere. And I think he's one of the rare creatures or characters from horror films where the atmosphere is amplified because of his presence, because you don't really know what he could do. He's so unpredictable, but he's not like Freddy, where you can only see him in a dream. And he's not like the creature where he's just underwater for the most part, or in a cave. Because he's in an urban environment, he is next door. He could be anywhere, and that's what makes him scary. And hence that's what makes him in the middle. Because he's scary when he's there, he's scary when he's not there. Simply put, comparatively, the creature from It Follows is similar. The creature in It Follows has the same kind of a structure to itself. It's scary when it's present, it's scary when it's not. Because you could be looking from a perspective of someone who doesn't have the virus, and they won't see it. So, of course, when they're on the beach, for example, and you are watching it and seeing two different girls on the same... Actually, one of them's in the water. The one that's in the water is the one that the creature has... It has taken the form of. And then when it grabs her hair to, pull her away, to rip her to pieces, whatever it's going to do, you only, as you, on the perspective of the other people, see the hair going up, and then they're like, wait, what the hell? And so that gives you a whole thing, as well as the fact of when it's on the roof, it's this whole entire thing, outside of it being invisible, more or less, when you see it, and it could just be, if it's actually visually present, it's in the room, it's walking around somewhere, it's scary, but at the same time, it could be anywhere, because you don't know what perspective you're always looking through. You could be looking from the main character's perspective, but then when she gives the virus to someone else, you're scared for that person, and you're still scared for the main character, because the main character can still see it. And I feel like they're two good uses of the middle, where it could be there, it could not be there, but it's scary nonetheless. And that gives both films an amplified atmosphere because of it. Additionally to this, we have, of course, underexposed, our third category. So in this case, of course, I'm going to go with the xenomorph from Alien. So the xenomorph, the alien, my reasons more or less is the fact that it's scary because it's underexposed. When the xenomorph is present and on screen, especially in the first film, realistically I'm only going the first film here, it's scary because it's on screen. It's scary because you don't know what the hell it is. It's something that defies, obviously, nature, because it still is an alien. It's something different. It's something you don't understand, and that provokes fear, especially because the only thing it does is attack the main characters. But it doesn't go all the way out and find them and kill them. Unless it does, of course, say with our final, in the final two characters get killed off by it. But more or less, the fact is that it's just there. The xenomorph itself only has about 4 minutes of runtime. It's only in the film for about 4 minutes. Now, this is in a 2-hour-long, science fiction horror film, where the first hour of it is just people going to a planet. And then you have the different evolutions of the xenomorph, of course. You have the facehugger, which has probably its longest amount of scares because, of course, you have first it comes out of the egg, then it just squirts the acid on the floor. That's another potentially horrifying element to itself. Then, of course, you have when it gets off Kane's face, it's now trapped up in the ceiling. There's a whole look-see, where is it? And then it falls down on Ripley, and it's like, oh shit, this thing could still be alive. It's horrifying, and then it's just dead. So the fear goes away because it's dead, but you still are confused. You don't know what it is. You don't understand it. At least to a human understanding, more or less. Like, we still understand what it is, but once we finally get to our next nature, and even if you're rewatching it, it's still scary, I'd say. Because it just has that presence. It's not like, oh, that's a face hugger. If it gets on your face, it will impregnate you with a xenomorph. That xenomorph will then come out of your chest and turn into a xenomorph. You don't have that thing in the film because even the characters don't know what the hell's going on. It then amplifies the fear. The chest burster, which is only in the one famous scene, outside of the first time you watch it, it's just confusion. What the hell is going on? Why is this happening? Oh my god, what the hell is that? So the chest burster relies on this unpredictable nature to itself, and that is what makes it scary. But we're more or less looking at the xenomorph itself, not in its prior stages. The xenomorph as an adult creature, which also still comes out of the blue, because moments, like maybe an hour beforehand, they're looking for the chest burster, and then boom, it's suddenly this big, unidentifiable creature, and you don't know what the hell it can do. And they don't go into a lot of detail as to what it can do in the first film, more or less, of course, in the rest of the franchise it does. And that's what amplifies the fear as well. You don't know what it's capable of. Prior to the chest burster scene, obviously the fear comes from different areas, but also it's just an atmospheric film until pretty much you get to the facehugger. But once the chest burster comes out, you're now scared of, what the hell was that? Where could it be? What is it? Even if you've seen the film before, you're rewatching it, you're anticipating that it'll be here, it'll be there. You get your minor jump scares here and there, of course, because of Jonesy the cat, that goddamn fracking cat. But there are only small, brief moments with the xenomorph itself, and that makes it scary, because the majority of that second half of the film, where the xenomorph is present, it's not present. It's scarier because it's not there. It could be in the shadows because, of course, it is a fully black creature. It could be in the shadows. You don't know where it is. And that makes it scarier. You don't have a scene where Ripley wanders into a room and it's just wandering around, walking like a dude in a suit, just wandering around like, I wonder if she's over here. I wonder if she's over here. You don't get any of that crap. Because this is a creature that's basing itself on pure survival. It's doing its own thing. Now, of course, if you watch the director's cut, the special edition way, of course, you get that extra scene that showcases the fact that it actually used Dallas's body and someone else's body, I can't remember whose body, to create its own nest. That doesn't exactly amplify the fear, I don't think, because, I mean, you could in terms of like survival elements, but at the same time, you're still watching Ripley in this phase of the film trying to destroy the ship to get rid of the alien so it never comes back and she can get the hell off there and to safety. I mean, look, arguably the second and third and really the rest of the franchise, there's still a horror element that comes from the xenomorph itself, for when it isn't, for when it is present, when it isn't present. But like in Aliens, you've got a different kind of context surrounding it. Like, you've got a lot more of them, but then when they come, you can kill them off, just shoot them with a gun, Yeah, you still get the acid sprays, and that could still be damaging, or the flamethrowers work, or whatever. However it be, they use all those incidents in the film. It reduces the amount of fear that comes from the creatures, and more or less amplifies the fear that comes from other elements of it. Like, oh, there's a collective swarm of them, and it just kind of, I don't know, it's strange how the fear kind of works in it, but the fear, I'd argue, is still there in Aliens, or Alien Resurrection, for example, where there's a lot more of these xenomorphs. However, if you have like Alien 3 or Alien, there's only one, and so it's, where is it, what can it do, because there are two different kinds of creature, similar, but different. And, of course, you get more of it in Alien 3, and you see it more like animal-like, less survival, more animalistic. but it still gives you a different kind of fear, especially if you watch the special edition version, the assembly cut of Alien 3. And yeah, that's more or less what I think when it comes to at least these kind of styles of horror creatures or horror characters. Yeah, let me know what you think in the comments down below. There's obviously different arguments for different kind of creatures, whether they be created in different kinds of ways. So yeah, feel free to like, share, and subscribe below if you enjoyed this video. There's more videos here for Halloween for October because I like horror. It's got nothing to do with Halloween. I don't even celebrate Halloween. I live in Australia, for crying out loud, you know. Since we moved to this place, we've had one Halloween, and we had like 2 sets of trick-or-treaters, and it was really weird because that's never happened before. So yeah, do you want me to talk about The Thing? Because that in itself is a whole different... I feel like The Thing would be a bit of a middle. Yeah, because once it does show up, you don't know where it is, who it is, and that puts itself into the mystery. And then when you do see it, and it's this gargantuan creature, or just a person with their head splitting open, or a little head crab thing, it's scary. So I'd say that's definitely in the middle. It's scary when it's present, it's scary when it's not. Okay, you're happy? Good, goodbye, bye, thank you, thanks for watching, cheers.